All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of CRNA School Prep Academy podcast. I have a very special guest today who is Sara. We go way back, like 2019, I want to say. I think it was the
Yeah.
fall. Yeah, it was a long time ago at this point. Gosh. But I'm super excited to bring her on here today because she is going through what many of you guys are afraid of, which is anesthesia school with young children. So I'm excited to kind of debunk some of these myths and have her share kind of how she's been doing in school with a family and juggling all the things. And something that's unique about Sara too, that I'll let her tell you about, is that she has a husband who's a firefighter. So I think that throws a little twist into things as well. So Sara, go ahead and tell everyone about who you are and all the good stuff.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Sara. I am a first year anesthesia student. I do have 3 kids. My oldest is 12, almost 13, and he's homeschooled because of COVID. So he is home with me. And then I have 2 little ones, a 4, almost 5-year-old, and then a 6-year-old. And I just want to preface this whole conversation with, I'm a parent going through anesthesia school in the middle of a global pandemic. So the things that I say might be different. I know at least my program is looking at ways to sort of alter how they deliver education in the future, maybe leaning towards more of a hybrid model with the possibility of keeping online an option. Also looking at the possibility of offering a part-time option so that people can still work. So everybody's experience is different. These are just my suggestions. They may or may not work for you. And again, my situation is going to be different because we're going through with COVID. So
Yes, very great point. I can't even imagine the whole homeschooling and everything has just been so up and down this year. I definitely hope that a year or two from now, if you guys are listening to this episode, that things are more normal. And you never know, it could, like you said, come in, maybe they'll open opportunities for unique structures for school that will maybe be
yes,
more flexible for the family. So
that's what I'm actually talking to one of my professors about doing my doctoral project on, is talking to students, anesthesia students that are in currently, and seeing how this pandemic and the shift to online learning has impacted their learning, what people's learning styles are, how they think, the delivery is going, and things like that. So more to come possibly.
very cool. I'm excited to see that when that comes out. So we'll go ahead and get into some of the questions today. One of my first questions I have is, I guess, when deciding to go back to CRNA school, what were your concerns or worries about having a family, and how did you overcome that?
Um, 2 of my biggest fears were the financial situation, because my husband and I are used to having 2 incomes. We have 3 kids and a mortgage. So I was really worried about that, and also how I was going to get work done with COVID and school shut down. As far as finances go, I could do a whole podcast, I think, just on that in and of itself, of suggestions that I've gathered from people and things that I've heard. I didn't have this really long drawn out like application process. So some of the things I didn't have time to do, but I think they're awesome suggestions. So if people reach out to you and they want more information on that, you can always put them in touch with me. But what my husband and I did was, we paid off our cars. The only debt that we have right now is our mortgage, and then like the monthly bills, like to pay for living in a house. But we don't have any debt aside from that. He's a fireman, like you mentioned, so he had no school student loans. And I was fortunate enough to be able to pay for my BSN without having to take out any loans, just doing it really slowly online and using tuition reimbursement, things like that. So financially, that's how we prepared. I go to school with someone who sold their house and moved in with parents, even though they have kids, just to help with that. The military is another great option. And then as far as COVID and having kids home at school, we bit the bullet and had to put our 2 in private school, our 2 youngest, because that was the only thing that was open.
Mm,
So
Thanks. Yeah, that's definitely been a challenge, even finding childcare, let alone schooling. Um,
yes.
Yeah. And it's not cheap.
No.
So, okay. Well, that's, and then, so finances was a big fear. And I guess, did you say you had one more fear other than your finances
The finances and how I was going to accomplish schoolwork,
with
with
kids being in
kids at
school?
home.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And so far your solution, how's the homeschooling been going?
He is a really smart, really self-directed kid. Again, we had to pay money to get him a program that was sort of like, I guess you really wouldn't call it homeschooling because I'm not teaching him.
Mm-hmm.
He has a program, he logs on, he has live teachers, um, books and things like that. So he's homeschooled, like kind of like the rest of the country where he's at home doing lessons online. But it's just not through our local public school. It's through like a homeschooling program.
Okay. All right. Good to know. And I guess I wanted to point that out too, because I didn't want people to think that you had time yourself to homeschool.
No.
And okay. Okay. Very good. All right. Yeah. So that's, like you said, and I'm also very thankful that you shared that despite being afraid of the finances, that you took some necessary steps to better yourself, as
Yes.
much as you could anyways. And you just kind of jumped all in and did it. And have you had any issues getting out loans that you need? I know a lot of
No.
people, okay. A lot
No.
of
In
people worry about
fact,
that.
we we have been lucky enough to pretty much survive on just what he makes and with overtime. I haven't even really had to take out cost of living. um Again, everybody's situation is different, and I've heard of people like in the time that they're planning to go to school, people are nurses are working a ton and just pocketing the money, putting it in savings or whatever for that. Another thing I've heard of people doing is every time they go to the grocery store, they buy themselves like a gas gift card or a grocery gift card or like an eating out gift card, so that you're stockpiling those things so it's not coming out of your funds when you are in school. um yeah, just stuff like that, paying down debt, all these things.
Okay, that's a good idea with the gift cards. I wouldn't have thought about that. Yeah, and I guess to put it in perspective for my own experience, too, you guys, I had about I mean, we paid for our own wedding, which was a very expensive wedding. And I also took on the burden of all my undergrad loans. So I had about $80,000 of undergrad loans when I went back to grad school. And while I had no hope of ever getting that kind of tackled, I did manage to pay for our wedding in full, and then managed to save, after about 60 hours a week of overtime for a year, about $10,000 as our emergency fund before we started school. And I should say my husband also was working, but just, wasn't enough to quite cover everything. So I took out loans for tuition and some living expenses. And essentially, I made sure I took out all the extra they could offer
Right.
me. And I put it into a savings account. And so that way it was like my emergency, is it kind of replenished my emergency fund. And my 28 months in school, I went through all that $10,000 and then some. So, and I'm not good with money. I'm never claiming that to be the case, but my dog got sick. My car broke down. I ended up being asked to be a maid of honor in a wedding that was out of state. I mean, just stuff happens. And then
Right.
by the time I was done with school, there was a 3-month limbo period between graduating and getting that first paycheck. I took out a $10,000 credit card loan, 0% on one of my credit cards. So we could make it from graduation until when I got my first paycheck from August to October. Now I had 18 months to pay that off at 0% interest, so it was no big deal. But just to kind of give you guys some options, if you have good credit, you're going to have more options on how to fund school. So make sure you're, again, like Sarah said, pay down outstanding credit card debt. Make sure your credit score is as good as it can be, because it'll give you more financing options and usually at a better interest rate. And don't be afraid of private loans. A lot of people lean on the government, which is fine, but you can actually get better interest rates through private loans a lot of times. So just compare. It takes some extra steps.
You got to explore the options.
Exactly. Explore the options. Some private loans don't allow forbearance, so it's really important to understand the terms that come with all different loan options. But yes, I mean, there are so many options out there. The government is only one avenue of getting your school paid for.
And here's the thing, like, so again, this is something unique to our situation, what's going on right now. The stimulus money has helped put a cushion in our savings account. That won't be here forever. And the thing about loans is like, no one wants to take them out. I get it. I don't either. It makes me sick to my stomach physically to know that I have that much money out. For some reason, my mind doesn't reconcile that with a mortgage, even though that's a lot of money too. But CRNAs are in really high demand. A lot of companies are giving loan reimbursement or like sign-on bonuses, even for new grads. I plan on negotiating if you're married and you get benefits through your spouse. My husband's a fireman. He gets really good benefits. I don't need medical benefits when I graduate. I plan on negotiating for a higher rate or a higher reimbursement bonus. And if you get used to living below your means, like we all are in school because we're all poor, then keep your head down, hustle when you get out, and you can pay your loans back really quickly if that's something you want to do. So that's my plan. I wasn't going to get out of school and be like, whoa, I'm a CRNA and just start spending money. I'm going to throw everything at my loans.
That's very smart. Yep. We did the same thing. And in 2 years, without even knowing it, we paid off $90,000. I just every extra, all the extra I made, all the overtime, all the QPI bonuses, everything just went to my student loans. And then obviously that changed once we had kids, bought a house, got a car,
right.
But yeah, like you said, if you kind of stick to your current living arrangement right after school for a period of time, you can pay down a lot of debt.
And they keep extending for federal. I don't know how long this is going to go, but they keep extending the deadline for interest free. So as of right now, I've been in school for like 9 or 10 months. And we haven't had interest on any of the loans at all yet because of COVID. So
that is amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So now's a good time. Go back.
Right.
Hopefully.
And that's what I didn't get in the first time I applied. I was devastated, obviously, but I was told by the director of the program at the time, who also didn't get in the first time he applied. He was like, trust the timing. And I really feel like had I got in the year prior, it probably would have been catastrophic. Both of my kids were in preschool. They were only gone part of the time. There wasn't all this COVID stuff. We would have had to go to school. So the benefit of online learning, even though it's a lot of self-teaching, the benefit of that to people with families is that I'm a little bit more free to like, I'll watch this lecture when they're gone or this or that. I'm not like tied into a schedule. So that's been helpful too.
Right. Right. All right. So question number 2, what are some things you did in the beginning prior to starting school that you feel like helped you prepare for this?
Sorry, I'm just looking at, I typed these out before because I don't want to miss anything. So first of all, I just want to say, I don't think anything can really prepare you for school. You read the forums and you think, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. People are getting divorced. Their children hate them. They're never around. And that's just not the case. I think if you talk to people you can trust, talk to people that have gone through it before, and especially in my case or other people with kids, I really leaned on not only people that went through my program prior to me, but also people with kids to find out how they did that. I think you just have to roll with the punches, take it day by day, take things as they come. But my family was really on board with this. We prepared everyone. My parents live in our neighborhood. My dad is retired. My father-in-law also lives in my neighborhood and he is retired. So getting everybody on board about what this was going to be like ahead of time, talking to people that went through it first, making sure my spouse was understanding, and just sort of trying to plan things as best as you can, trying to handle financial stuff. And, you really can't go into it blindly because it is kind of a shock, the amount of work. But I guess I would say just mostly just taking it day by day. A lot of people ask, what can I do to prepare school-wise beforehand? And I tell everybody, don't do that. And our program says the same thing. Take the trip, read for pleasure, binge on Netflix, nap, do that stuff before you get in, because you're not going to have a lot of time in the program.
I know you still take naps.
I do still nap. I have to, it's my self-care. But I juggle my napping and my exercising based on my week. Like this is exam week, so I'm not doing that this week because I really have to like prep, but next week I'll be back to napping.
All right. Sounds good. Well, now that makes me feel better. Yeah. And you're right. You don't want to give up everything that's you. And like you said, you knew nap was as high on your priority list that you knew you needed that for self-care. So, but like you said, preparing your loved ones for what's ahead and kind of setting the expectation ahead of time that you're not going to be hearing yes from me all the time, that you're going to probably hear no from me more often. And it's not because I don't want to, it's just temporary. It's I'm in school. And then the spouse thing is really important too, because it's a team effort, and even more so when you're in school, you're going to be leaning more heavily on them, and they have to be not only willing, but kind of understanding to that and know that, again, it's temporary, that, this is you're doing this for your whole family for, and again, the rewards are going to be there once you're done for everyone. Yes. So I think those are all really great points. And yeah, like you said, there's really nothing you can really do to truly prepare, because it is kind of a workload you've never experienced before. Right. And, as far as what can you do ahead of time, you're right. So many people want to get a head start. And I always tell people, don't get me wrong. You can, if you really want to, study a little bit, but don't study anesthesia. You can't learn anesthesia out of context. And it's different to brush up on pharmacology and a little bit of physics or chemistry, but you can't really learn anesthesia concepts like the blood gas coefficients of sevoflurane prior to starting school. It would be way over your head. So, but yeah, it's important to take that time to spend with your friends, your family, and, take a trip on a budget, or do things that you really enjoy that, you might not have as much time for once school starts. Right. So one thing that we did was we went to Yosemite, which was amazing. I hope to go back there someday.
I'm from California, so
cool.
I used to go there a lot.
Yeah, I remember driving into that park just being just like jaw drop, like whoa. Yeah. Just the mountain, the cliffs. Oh my gosh.
And it's beautiful in every season.
It is. The waterfalls. We went end of May or middle of May. It was perfect because it wasn't too hot. They had waterfalls, but yeah, we took that trip, and that was like, we did a trip in school too. We went to Puerto Rico. Like I said, people always make school sound like you're going to get divorced, you're going to be miserable, but it's just not the case. Don't get me wrong. It's not super fun, but, and I think if you have a strong relationship going into school, you're going to be okay. Right. If you have a relationship that's on the rocks prior to school starting, well, you're going to get ready to be put under a lot of stress. So therefore it could lead into more problems. But, and as far as actually having time for enjoyment, you still can find time. I think I had more time back in school than I have right now. I can tell you that right now. So,
and the thing about it is that, and this is really hard mindset to shift. We're all type A personalities. We're all used to getting straight A's. You had to get here. It's that competitive. But this is a terminal degree. All you have to do is pass. And I know that that's really hard for people to be like, what? I don't have to get A's anymore. Nobody cares. It's not worth your sanity. The main things that are important about school are coming out, making sure that you are a safe and competent practitioner. And sometimes your grade on the test does not translate. Sometimes they write terrible tests. Mm-hmm. You just need to understand the concepts to practice safely. That does not mean getting a 4.0.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to. And everyone's benchmark as far as passing is a little bit different on the grading scale. Some schools 80%, some 87%. So just know that policy prior going into school. And, I know, like for me in my mind, where I was, not that I cared about an A, but I wanted that cushion in case I did totally bomb something or screw up. But ultimately you got to know your school's policy on whether they allow you to retake a test, for example. Mm-hmm. Like I know my school, if you had something major going on in your life, they would allow you to reschedule a test for a different date to make sure that you're set yourself up for the most success. Again, that's,
I don't know if every school is like that, but where I go that's another part of your research arm before you're applying places. Find a school that is family friendly, that's understanding. our cohorts are so small. You become like family. Our teachers are very highly invested in our success. Now, you can't have a bad attitude. You can't not do the work, but if they see that you're trying, you reach out early if you're struggling with something, it impacts their numbers if we don't do well and we fail it, or you don't pass boards the first time or whatever. So they want us to do well.
And I love how you said, reach out early. I love it. That's the best advice ever. Don't wait till you have a problem to say something. Reach out when
Yes.
you are anticipating a problem or starting to something starting to unravel. Oh my gosh, that's when you need to reach out, say, hey, I need help. I need an intervention here. Because if you wait till a bad grade happens or something else happens, they can't do anything really.
Right. Right.
So
Like
yes.
here's like a small example of that. It's not really important, but like I'm getting my second COVID vaccine on Friday, and we have, or I'm sorry, on Thursday, and we have our first farm exam on Friday. And I had no reaction to the first vaccine. Everybody is different. So I reached
Mhm.
out to my teacher and I said, look, I'm scheduled to I screwed up. I scheduled this, not paying attention all the way. The school won't let me reschedule the second dose because they take out a certain amount and then the dose will be wasted. And he's like, I really want you to not miss out on your dose. I have a Zoom. At this point in the program, they're having us go to school to take tests so they can watch us. Before it was on Zoom proctored. But he was like, look, I have a Zoom set up for emergencies. Thank you for letting me know ahead of time in case I get a fever or whatever and can't go to class. And even if I have such a reaction that I can't take the exam, they're going to be like, let's reschedule it.
Mhm. Yeah,
But I let him
exactly.
know ahead of time instead of being the morning of like, oh my gosh, I got my vaccine yesterday and I feel terrible. Then he's going to be like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's great advice. As long as you are communicating with them, let them know ahead of time, they will work with you. And especially through these family situations, they understand. I mean, life happens, and
Right.
having a family only complicates things as far as it might not just be you that things are happening to, it could be your kids or your spouse. So again,
Right.
making sure you're keeping that communication line open. Um, so let me ask you, do you feel like you still have time for family, or do you have any regrets about going back to school?
Absolutely not. And about regrets.
Oh,
I do still have time for family. I'm getting to the point in my program now, since we're starting anesthesia content, where I feel like I have to be a little more selective about what I sign on for and what I don't. But again, my husband is a fireman. He is gone at least 24 hours at a time. But since I am not working anymore, he's picking up a ton of overtime. And so my two youngest kids are gone every day from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And when he's on shift, I have no choice but to do bedtime, bath time, dinner time. So I am still really present. Um, I have to have more grace with myself. Like, you know, if things are a mess, it is what it is. I got to let it go until I can fit that in. Sometimes, are they getting a 4-course meal? No, sometimes we have breakfast for dinner. They like that. They think it's exciting. Um, I think the big thing about that is knowing when to ask for help. Again, because my family is here, I don't want to abuse the help. If I have a big exam, I'll be like, he's on shift. Can you please watch him so I can study for a bit? But I don't want to be asking them all the time, because I know when clinical starts and we are gone 40, 50, 60 hours a week, they're going to need to be there more, and they know that. So I'm trying not to take advantage of it now. But you have to know when to ask for help. If you're drowning, do not be a martyr, because if you fail out, you still have to pay back loans, and like it impacts more than just you.
yes, yes, 100%. So yes, asking for help is really vital. And I love how you kind of shared with everyone that, when he's gone for 24 hours, you are essentially a single parent, doing all the
Right.
things. And so that's hard work. And hey, no judgment here. I mean, there's nights where like our kids eat like 3 bites of food and I'm like, fine, go have a fruit roll up. God, a
Yep.
night.
If you're going to eat something, okay.
Yeah. Fruit roll ups.
This is
So
temporary.
exactly. I mean, it's not going to scar them forever, hopefully.
No.
So yeah, you do what you have to do, but asking for help. And, you mentioned you have family nearby. Support is so, so important. And especially with kids, I really think, don't get me wrong, if you're a single parent, you want to go back to school and you don't have family around, I'm not saying it's impossible, but holy moly, you'd have to have something. You'd have to have someone
Yes.
to
A
help you, whether,
nanny
and
or
exactly,
daycare. Yeah.
you'd have to, because like you said, clinical, once that starts, you're not guaranteed to be let out on time. I mean, you
No.
could be staying till 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. And, as a student, it's not your place to say, can I go home? I have to get my kid to their soccer
Right.
game. Well, you need to make other arrangements for that. So not, that sounds really harsh and mean, but it's kind of just the expectation that once you're there,
Mhm.
you're committed to this shift that you're there, whether that be 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. And don't get me wrong, we let students go early sometimes, but you just can't ever count on that on certain
Right. And the
days.
thing
So
about that is that's your safety. Soak up every ounce of clinical you can. Make the mistakes, see the scary stuff when someone else is still responsible for the patient.
yeah, yeah. Try new things with your preceptor. Say, hey, can we try this today?
Right.
Sure. Yeah, because exactly, you have a second set of hands and someone who, like, I'll let my students, as long as I know it's safe, I'll say, let's go ahead and, well, yeah, why not? Let's let you see if this works for you. Cause again, it gives you an idea. Oh, I didn't like that, or maybe that was a little more difficult than it had to be. But you're never going to know unless you try. And having someone there who
Right.
can potentially help you get out of a pinch um, is nice. And yeah, I mean, you're paying to be in clinical, so you don't necessarily always want to be looking to leave. That's part of,
Right.
the better clinical experience you get, the better you're going to be when you're done, and more comfortable you're going to be when you're done.
Right.
So you definitely want to utilize that without, you don't want to be abused. You don't want to be there 12-hour days every day, but if you occasionally stay late, I think that's an okay thing. As long as it's not like a daily occurrence. Okay. So that's actually one of the last questions I have here. If you had to identify 3 key things that have helped you juggle family and school, what would they be?
Um, so having the place for them to be during the day in school has been integral to my success. I really don't think that I would be able to do this if they were home 24/7. It just would not be possible because even though the little ones, they see me doing work and they know, they are still like, even when my husband is home, they'll walk past him and ask me stuff. Sometimes I have to tell them, like, when you see mommy sitting in this chair, like, pretend I don't exist. I have to do this, right now. um so having a place for them to go, whether it be full-time school or daycare or grandparents' house on a weekend when I have a big exam coming up, which ties into the second thing, help and knowing when to ask for it. And the third key thing, like we talked about already, was shifting my mindset from getting A's and like having more grace with myself about what my house looks like and things like that. This, like I said, it's just temporary. It's going to benefit everybody when it's done. We just have to get through it, and failure is really not an option.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And like you said, letting go a little bit, everyone, you're kind of in your own routine prior to school starting. And I think it's hard to let go of some of the stuff that you were used to being able to do and like to do. And just knowing that, okay, things are not going to always, the house is not always going to be as nice as it used to be. I'm not going to always get Christmas decorations out the way I want them to be,
Right.
but it's only for this period of time. And, again, having the help and knowing when to ask for it is huge, not just, I mean, just really in every way. Not only that,
Right.
that plays into having kids, that plays into being in the clinical setting, that plays into like
Right.
everything in life. And then, like you said, having them have a place for them to be during the day that they're getting what they need and you get what you need, and not feeling guilty
Right.
about that, because they're happy, they're cared for, they're fed, they're educated. You're at home educating yourself. It's again, not feeling that parent guilt of not maybe being as present as maybe you once were. Um,
Mhm.
so, and again, your
And we're
oldest,
setting an example for them
y-
about, what hard work is, and I had my oldest early when I was younger, before I really finished school. And so, not grad school is a different ball game, because especially CRNA school or NP school, because we're nurses. By the time that happens, pretty much everybody has a family, blah, blah, blah. But like, my son has seen me pretty much go to school since he was born. I used to take him with me to the daycare at nursing school. So, you know, in addition to showing them hard work, I'm trying to reiterate, get your ducks in a row before you have children.
Yes. And again, like you said, you're setting an example of showing them it's never too late to go back for your dream, and hard work will
Right.
pay off. And even if they're young, they'll still know that mommy's working towards something.
Yep.
So I think that those lessons are invaluable for the kids to learn and see, and they admire you. They look up to you. They're not going to, some people are worried about, oh gosh, my kids are not going to like me anymore. It's just not the case. I'll tell you right now, my
No.
parents were nothing perfect and I love them to death. Okay. So, kids will love you. They admire you. You're not going to be perfect. You're not supposed to be perfect. You're human.
Right.
And again, so yeah, all this is for a payoff in the long run, to have a better schedule, better work-life balance, a career you love, and hopefully help them achieve the same thing when they get to be in your shoes someday too.
I'm keeping them going with a trip to Disney they've been promised when we graduate. So
there you go, with no mask,
my
hopefully.
Yes, my daughter's always asking like, oh, you're taking a test. Are you going to graduate? Are we going to Disney? I'm like, not yet.
That's a good idea. Well, that's funny you say that, because we were hoping to go this past year and it didn't work out. So now that we're having another baby, I'm anticipating 2020, would it be 23, I think. So who knows, maybe we'll be in Disney around the same time.
Yeah, that's the year I graduate.
Yeah. So very cool. Well, thank you, Sara, so much. It's been a pleasure as always. And it's so fun seeing you grow over your time in school. And you have been such a huge resource to people. You guys, like I said, Sara, if you have questions, Sara's always been so awesome and helped out so many students who are up and coming, and a lot of them have now gained acceptance. So
into my school.
I
It's
know
so exciting.
that is exciting. It's so awesome to see that. And so it's just so cool to me to see kind of a community come together and help each other out, because really that's all it takes, is just paying it forward, being that mentor for someone else. And that one person that changes their life. So
I'm so passionate about this, especially for parents and for people that don't get in the first time. Not getting in the first time could be devastating. It could shoot your confidence, but there is a method to the madness. You have to trust the timeline, and there's totally things you can do in the interim to guarantee yourself getting in. And for parents, I was guilty of going on the forums and being like, oh my gosh, maybe I should not do this. And that's just not the case. So
yeah.
I love talking to people about this. I am always willing to answer questions. People can always contact me.
And think about it. People are way more likely to leave a negative review than a positive review. So the forums, if you look at it as a negative review forum, a lot of them are going on there and sharing their negativity. Because people are hurt. And I wish it wasn't that way, but unfortunately that is the case, how a lot of times things work. People are quick to speak their mind when they're unhappy. But when they're happy, they're like, this is great, but they may or may not say something, go out of their way to say something to other people. So, don't read into the forums too much, and do own yourself in your own life, and don't worry about what everyone else does or what works for them, because chances are it won't work for you anyways, because you're unique and your family is unique. So go out there, chase your dreams, and don't be afraid. So, but Sara, you've been awesome. And thank you so much. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed today, and let us know if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to me via email, and I will put you in touch with Sara.
All right. Thank you, Jenny.
All right. Thanks, Sara.